Okay, so welcome everybody. Wanted to just go over a few things here with our webinar talking about really what districts have done to get ready for the school year. Uh, this was an idea we had a few months ago, but as we can see, it's kind of changing week by week. So now that we're here, it's more of what have you done to get ready for what's as of now an opening in a few weeks. So I'll turn it over to you guys in just a second. Again, my name is Kevin Foote. I'm the rep here for K-12 in Arizona and handle most of the West. And I'm gonna just turn it over to you guys here. K-12, again, if you don't know, we're all about creating better learning environments. So I'll start with Principal Mike Davis here. Go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get into these questions.
All right, hello, I'm Mike Davis. I'm the principal at Desert Ridge Junior High. It's my 22nd year in education in Arizona. Spent 2 years in Coolidge way back in the day. And then this is my 15th year in administration. I've been an elementary principal for 10 years, and then I've been in junior high for about 4.5.
Perfect, thank you. So our three questions are, first one, what has been done so far in your district in Gilbert for the reopening of schools?
Well, I don't know how far you want to go back, but even into March when we took every custodian we had in the district and made teams, they went through and they sanitized and cleaned every room just in case we were going to do opening. Since then, we've done plexiglass in high contact areas, trying to keep the communication as open as possible with the families while also trying to figure out what we were going to do to open up schools safely. So right now we're evaluating campuses, making sure there's sanitizer in every room, making sure that all of our staff understands the procedures. Right now, all of our schedules, our master schedule has been blown up with 3 choices the parents had to make for their education, either in person, a flex schedule, or a global online, which is like a Florida virtual online curriculum. So right now we're in the middle of all of that. So the fun is balancing the health and the safety, the preparing the staff for what they need to know, and making the families comfortable with what we're trying to accomplish. And I can elaborate more on any of that, but that's kind of in general what we're doing right now.
Great, thank you. On the notes here, I had a question too about current situation, COVID, what have you. What type of paradigm shift are we going to see in the way our kids are taught?
I've been excited about it. I know that it's hard. You see, whenever you have to do something you haven't done before, people get nervous. But the more you reassure them that you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be yourself and be there for people. That's what we've been trying to do. So I think that our staff, our teachers have learned a lot of different ways of changing what they're doing and differentiating. I think has been the biggest thing, because we've been able to have meetings with people that I think we're going to be able to do differently now. Meeting with kids who maybe go on trips. We have a lot of football players that go to Florida for state championship teams that miss a whole week of school. Well, now there might be a way that we can keep them more engaged in their learning. And I know for a while there was the movement of kind of moving away from one way of having school, and I think right now that the public schools are having a chance to show that there might be a different way to schedule learning to make it more relevant and easily accessible for their families.
Awesome. And last question, and advice you'd like to give school district leaders, being you've been doing this for 22 years, maybe somebody who's getting a principalship for the first time or in 2020, what would you give them for planning like classroom spaces and things like that, and kind of handling this whole situation?
Well, I know it would be amazing if we could have 25, 30 kids in a classroom spaced out at 6 feet, but Basically, when I was at the elementary school, some of the things that we did, in the morning announcements, you can be a little more silly with elementary kids, but we would do hand wash songs and just different things to make sure that they understand. And even at the junior high, just the mantra is we're trying to create a safe environment and a clean environment. And we need all of your help with that, reestablishing with kids what personal boundaries are, and that there are certain things we're not going to joke about anymore. And that's, being in someone's space. I think the big thing that we're going to work on this year is just directional seating. I know in the cafeterias, making sure that everyone is kind of facing the same direction rather than towards each other. And then what we're working on in our hallways and our doors is just everybody's coming out of a classroom and moving towards the larger classroom numbers. So the flow in the hallways is always kind of the same direction rather than people coming face to face. But those are just some of the basic things that we're starting on right now, in and outdoors, and opening the door with your hip rather than your hands, things like that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Rebecca, Willie, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll go ahead with the same questions as well.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm Rebecca Willey, and I am the Director of Curriculum and Instruction in the Wilson School District, which sits in kind of inner city, South Phoenix area. I'm in my 4th year of this position, but I'm starting my 28th year in education altogether, spending the majority of my years as a classroom teacher in the early primary grades, K2. And doing some coaching, and then got to work at the county level for a little bit. So and we've worked with K-12 for the last few years, doing some renovation that needed to happen anyways, but we've done a lot recently.
Yeah. What are some things that Wilson's done getting ready for reopening, whether it is going to be August 17th or later? What are some things that you guys have done so far?
Well, a lot of the same things that Mike was talking about, we have been spending our time on with, setting out procedures and protocols and those kinds of things. But Wilson kind of had an added challenge early on in the spring, thinking about how we would bring kids back with social distancing within the classroom. Wilson had, I say that in the past tense because they're all gone now. We had some stationary enormous desks that took up a lot of space and did not allow for any movement, literally at all, in the classrooms. And so we decided pretty early on that prioritizing safety and the welfare of our children and being able to space them out appropriately in the classroom was really critical to our staff feeling comfortable bringing students back and our families feeling comfortable sending their children back to us. So we have undertaken a huge project this summer and have done 26 classrooms of renovation and furniture to provide for adaptive seating and allowing space for all of our kids to come back in smaller groups. So like Mike was saying, our schedules that we continue to put together keep kind of shifting and adapting. But what we know is that in order to accomplish smaller class sizes, it's going to take some creativity and flexibility in our schedule. And some of that includes adjusting our schedule to have every certified teacher on campus teaching a group of kids during the day, even if it maybe is not their content area. And so flexibility is key right now.
Perfect, thank you. Just piggybacking on that, with the flexibility thing, how do you see that going towards in the future with a paradigm shift, like I said, with education?
Yeah, I think one of the really kind of great benefits that has come out of this is that I feel like it's helped our teachers to kind of break out of the bubble that they were teaching in before. Teachers are way more willing to take risks now, to try new strategies, to think outside the box, to be more problem solvers, where they had kind of gotten into this routine and habit of just, teaching the curriculum, teaching the kids the same routine pattern. And now I feel like our teachers are really, they're seeking out their own professional learning, which is fantastic. They're not waiting for someone just to give it to them. They're thinking, I need to learn strategies for establishing my classroom management online, and they go look for it, and they're seeking out their own professional learning. And that wasn't happening before. And so that's a nice little benefit of it. And just being willing to take on the hard things and do really truly what's best for kids. And that's just been really amazing to watch.
That jumps right into the next question of any advice you'd give school districts, teachers, leaders, as they're, let's say you would give your teachers planning for their classrooms this year coming up.
I've always, my heart is always back at the teacher level. And I think teacher voice is so critical. And we've learned that in not only just getting ready for this new world of education of, distance learning and then bringing kids back in this kind of new modified format, but giving teacher voice in what's happening even within their classroom spaces. So an example of that is, as we were redesigning classrooms with this new furniture, we brought in teams of teachers, gave them a little bit of the why of, why we want adaptive seating and why do we want, different shaped tables and desks in the classrooms, and letting them pick a little bit within parameters, obviously, but just having that teacher voice, I just think is so critical. And I think the other thing I would say is the lesson that has just resonated with me over the last almost 6 months now, crazy to think it's been that long, but is really that notion of just being transparent and always starting with the why. And that has never been more important because our teachers, our community don't know all of the inner workings of the conversations, everything that's happening kind of under the waves here. But there's so much work that has gone into preparing this distance learning and so much in preparation for our kids coming back when they can. And we've just really tried to be really transparent about what we're struggling with. And every decision we're sharing our why. Here's why we've chosen to put in this protocol. Here's why we've chosen to put in this kind of furniture in your classroom. Here's, just so that they know that it's not just on a whim, that we really have truly thought through everything deeply.
That's great. Thank you, Rebecca. Mm-hmm. Move right in right now. Brady, if you'd go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll get in some questions here as well.
Sure. First and foremost, thank you, Kevins and K-12 for having us on today. It's a pleasure. And it was great to see you guys. My name is Brady Wald. I'm the principal at Liberty Arts Academy in Mesa, and we're part of the Leona Group. We are a charter organization, and this is my 20th year, 5 years as a teacher and 15 years as an administrator. Originally from North Dakota, and made my way down 20 years ago to get away from one extreme to the other when it came to weather. And just absolutely fell in love with Arizona and the schools and the kids and the community. And so I got my start in Tempe Elementary School District. So I have the district experience and the charter experience, and just absolutely love being a part of Arizona and the schools and the kids, and just been a great ride so far, and excited about the future of education in Arizona.
Thank you, Brady. So the first question again, what's been done so far in Liberty Art, if it's a company-wide thing or a district-wide thing for Leona Group, to get ready for opening for you guys?
Yeah, and kind of piggyback on what Mike and Rebecca have been saying. I probably focus on, everything that they've done, and in addition to the one thing that has really stood out from the fourth quarter when we went into remote status was the equity in education, not only in Arizona, but for the United States. And being able to provide either state dollars or federal funding to be able to bridge the gap, whether it's through technology or whether it's through furniture. We're excited because we're able to take some of the furniture, whether it's desks or chairs. You talk about the mobility of those desks. We're excited to be able to arrange and use K-12 as a huge resource, being able to provide equity within the classrooms. And then just also, just our priority number one, like Mike said, is to keep our kids safe and our families safe and our staff safe at all time. That is definitely going to be a priority. But just yesterday I was, moving furniture out of classrooms and into storage units and putting up sensor, hand sanitizer. I mean, we're trying to do it all. And I think we're multitasking. I think Rebecca and Mike can both say this too, that, we're wearing so many different hats right now, but we're doing everything and anything we can to really provide that level of safety to its fullest when it comes to keeping our kids and staff safe. It's been challenging because, it's our goal at Liberty Arts Academy to keep our kids in a room or an environment where it's going to be 15 or less. And, we have 350 plus kids and, with some of the bigger schools and districts, it's going to be challenging. So when Rebecca was talking about thinking outside the box, I think it's important that our teachers and our administrators and our leadership have not only thought outside the box, but we became teachers because we are creative and we're innovators and we want to do what's best for kids and families. And so it's allowed us, even through all of these challenges, we've been able to take these lemons and really truly made lemonade out of it. And so I'm excited. Our teachers are excited. Our community is really excited about what we're able to offer and get ready for this school year.
Great, thank you. And if you could add on to that, what have you seen about the way kids are going to be taught? How is that, do you think, will change?
Yeah, and I'll start with the equity piece again. Is we're able to order Chromebooks, so we have a 1-to-1 student-to-computer ratio. That has been a huge shift, something that I think we all strive for, that technology isn't the end-all be-all, but it really helps, especially when you're trying to teach remotely. Also providing Wi-Fi for all of our families, being able to support them if they can't afford Wi-Fi. I know Cox Communications has just put something out there for Wi-Fi at a very affordable rate. I know other companies are doing that as well. But it has been a huge paradigm shift, but it's, we have to stay positive. Through all the different challenges. I think every day has been something new and different, whether it's through a federal or state announcement or through our organization. And it's just trying to, just stay positive and, find the best out of every situation. And I think, the biggest thing that we have taken from this is we can't accomplish anything alone, and that it's going to take all of us to pull together, and it's going to take a team. I firmly stand by that, but not only a team within our organization, but a team as far as the state of Arizona, and coming together, whether you're a charter school, you're a private school, you're a parochial school, you're a district school, it doesn't matter. We're all in this together. We're all in this. We're all fighting because we love kids. We want the best for kids. We want the best for our families, and we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we do that, and we do it together.
Thank you so much, Brady. And I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head with the last question, advice you'd give other school and district leaders. Maybe talk about your classroom space design with your 15 students, something like that. Was that something you can elaborate on?
Well, the best advice I can give leaders, especially aspiring leaders, is self-care. I always talk about balance and knowing the difference between being here at school and being able to wipe your feet clean at the rug of your house or your establishment, your residence, and being able to, be a dad, be a husband, be you. And so it's hard enough during a normal school year to find your balance and find you. But it's going to be especially important to really take care of you and find that self-care. I love being a dad of 3 boys and at home and being a husband. And so that is my normalcy right now. And that kind of keeps me sane. It keeps me going, is knowing that I have boys that, whether they go to my school or they go to my wife's school district, it's important that we keep keep them smiling, and we have to keep smiling too, because it starts with us. It's our face that our teachers see, and it's our face that our families and our kids see, our students see. And so being able to stay positive and being able to find you, whether it's hiking or, you know, just being outside or whatever you need to do. But that self-care piece is the best advice I can give anybody when it comes to if they want to do what, you know, Mike, Rebecca, and I are doing on a daily basis, because it's powerful work, it's important work, but we also have to take care of ourselves as well. As far as the shift in the classrooms, it's been challenging because you feel like you have a really solid plan going into it, and then you're throwing a curveball or a knuckleball in some cases, and it's like, oh my goodness, you got to go to plan B or a C or a D or an E. And I'm sure Mike and Rebecca can relate that we have several plans in place, because, you know, whether it's the metrics and the benchmarks that are going to be coming out on August 7th or beyond that, we have to be prepared. And so what are we doing to be able to hit a fastball, a curveball, or a knuckleball at any time? And I feel like we are prepared and ready to go more than ever before. And so I'm really proud of the work that we've done. And I'm also proud of, you know, being able to say that I'm a partner with a lot of school districts and really rely on my colleagues outside of our organization as well to be able to hear what they're doing, and the letters and the communication and the things that they're doing to really, you know, communicate and be able to service our families and our kids in whatever area that you're serving.
Thank you, Brady. Wanted to open it up to questions. I actually have one, and I've been getting this question quite a bit just from friends, neighbors, and everybody. How will, you know, everybody in the panelists right now, we're all in the K-8 space. How will lunch work in, and well, let's actually do 2 questions there. How will lunch work, and then also specials, music, PE, recesses, things like that. Go ahead, you can unmute whoever wants to go first, and talk about what you're going to do for any changes you've had to make to that.
I'll jump in. We are obviously limiting the capacity in our cafeterias. And so, you know, we've got probably, I don't know, 8 or 10 rows of cafeteria tables that go across. We're going to seat students in one direction, and we're going to space them, you know, several feet apart. Kids are going to have to wear their masks on campus all the time when they're out, well, all the time, period, unless they're eating or drinking is our goal right now. But like Brady was saying, you know, we've got to be ready to flex and shift and adjust as we meet the needs of our students. But we're just really trying to limit capacity. So our schedules have adjusted. So lunchtime, where it used to be done within about an hour and 20 minutes, now is really spanning over about 2 hours and 15 minutes, so that we can accommodate smaller groups of students, you know, sitting in one direction on one side of the table. And then that next group comes in, and we're going to sit them on the other side of the table facing the other direction while we sanitize and let that air dry per the requirements of CDC and Department of Health and all of that. Recesses, we very much believe in developmental play and the power of being able to run free and open, because our kiddos need that. But there again, the schedule is going to have to adjust so that we will only have 2 classes out there at a time. And we're just going to have to encourage students constantly, keep your distance, try to stay away from your friends. We're not going to have equipment out there to share at the beginning. So it's going to change the way we are normal. Everything that used to be normal is going to be different for us.
Brady or Mike, can you add anything on there? Go ahead, Brady.
Yeah, well, I think for the cafeteria, first and foremost, I mean, it's challenging, whether they're facing all the same way. We're hoping that when we go back, whether it's in August or it's September or October, we'll get to enjoy that beautiful, nice Arizona weather. And we have even started thinking outside the box of, well, why don't we make it picnic style? Where every child gets a blanket or a towel and they're able to enjoy the weather outside. We have the land to do it, where we can social distance. We know that COVID is airborne and probably the safest place is outside, to really make it a fun environment and, just a different opportunity. It's like, whoa, I get to go outside and eat all day or eat for 40 minutes. And just like Rebecca, we're a school of play as well. We follow the Finland model. And so we went from 7 electives or specials a week for every child, pre-K through 8th grade, and 3 recesses a day to now we had to think outside the box of how we're going to provide that. So we still have 3 recesses a day. Playgrounds will probably still be off limits. We're doing our very best to find ways or alternatives to disinfect so they can do that. Every classroom will have their own little bin of playground equipment, and then they'll disinfect it after each time. And then also, just like I said, thinking outside the box about what we can do to really kind of create and establish normalcy. With our specials, we've had our music teacher go back into the classroom. I've asked my instructional coach to go back into the classroom, and what that has done is we have been able to create that 15 and under environment for our kids for in-person learning whenever that is to be. So we've cut down our specials a little bit, but still wanting to create those academic opportunities, whether it's core or it is electives or specials, being able to just do that for our kids.
Perfect. Thank you, Brady. Mike, you want to add anything on there? Maybe talk about the junior high aspect of this.
Yeah, we just have our 7th and 8th grade students. So typically we usually have 500 to 550 students eating in 30 minutes. So your cafeteria is pretty limited. You have long lines in there with 8 kids at every seat or every table. And then out in the courtyard, we're set up kind of in a triangle area where there's a lot of shade from the buildings and overhangs. And then we have tons of grass that we normally have the kids stay off of, so the campus looks nice and crisp. But we're going to be making some adjustments there to do much like Brady said, where we're going to have kids out in the grass eating. We do have our library that is a big spacious area. Kevin's gone on a couple of tours with us as we've been looking for furniture and ways to bring things to our school. But we've opened up some walls in classrooms to make classrooms double the size. So there's going to be areas for kids to be eating inside or outside. We have teachers who may be opening up their classrooms. We have plenty of hallways if kids wanted to be sitting in hallways or classrooms during that lunchtime. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at expanding our lunch also in a sense of dividing up maybe the group into 3. So the first 10 minutes, we try to get as many kids through the line in 10 minutes, and then that next group will come, and then the third group. So we're doing everything we can there, trying to make sure that we're keeping kids spaced out and consistent. We'll have plenty of staff along the way with their disinfectant to make sure that we're cleaning up right away afterwards. And then when it comes to our electives, we don't really have recess and things like that, but our elective teachers are getting very creative. I know our orchestra, they know that they can still play with masks. And it sounds like there's some things going on with the band community where they can have masks on with smaller holes for just their instruments. And so we're looking into a lot of those types of things just to make sure that we're still able to offer the flexibility of the things students want to do. Of course, keeping the core curriculum as a priority, but as Brady had said, kids need choice. They need something to be enjoying during the day also. So we want to make sure we keep as much of that available to them as possible.
Thank you. Awesome. Any other questions? Maybe did you have any comments or questions for each other about things that were discussed? Kevin Stoller, did you have any?
Yeah, I'll be curating questions here too. So feel free to chime in with any ones here, and I'll curate them. But one of the ones is we hear a lot is, what is the planning of like kind of the reopen strategy versus what's looking at more long term, and is there that much discussion about that of like, okay, well, this is what we need to reopen, but is there also a discussion of like, what does this look like 1, 2, 5, 10 years down the road? Or is it very much of like, we're just super focused to the reopen strategy right now?
I could start. I'm when I say super focused, when you said that, definitely super focused right now. I think we need to be mindful of, we've always promoted, I think, especially in elementary, like you need to wash your hands. I mean, we carry germs. We use hand sanitizer. Those are things that we've done, but I think we've taken it now to the next level, which is good. And I think it's something that, I think about right now, will I take this down or will I take that down if COVID-19 ever goes away? And the answer probably is no. There's no such thing as, having these safety measures and precautions in place for schools or districts on keeping our kids and our families and our staff safe. Maybe it's less illness, maybe it's less flu-like symptoms, maybe it's less allergens in the school. So I think we need to be mindful of that a lot of the protocols and procedures and policies that we have put in place or will be putting in place are really good for kids and staff. And I think it's been nice. I try to treat everything in a positive. COVID-19 has been very challenging, but at the same time, it has allowed us as leaders and staffs and teams to really think about what is best for kids on a health and safety level. And so we as educators are very resilient, and we are creative and innovative when it comes to really looking for solutions and looking for plans, not only right now, but down the road. So I think it's important that, yes, we do look at how our schools are going to reopen, but also these are good decisions. These are smart decisions and very effective decisions on what is best for kids and our staff for the long run too.
We've done a lot of work, just piggybacking on what you were saying, Brady, about, what's good for kids. And we've done a lot of work this summer mostly this summer, about what's good instruction for distance learning, but it translates to just what's good instruction. And so we just did a big rollout of essential standards. We went back to the Arizona standards and said, what are the standards at each grade level that are absolutely most essential for the next school year? And this isn't new work. Marzano, the Dufours, all of these guys have done this work all the time, but it's so much more important, I think, right now. But Kevin, you're talking about, 5 years down the road, these are strategies, these are things that are going to carry us forward, because what we know to be true is that when you focus on the essential and we ensure mastery of these little building blocks along the way, it's going to have a positive impact on our kiddos. And so that's been a nice shift for us too, to remember really what is important and what do we want to draw forward for our students.
And I got to say real quick too, just kind of piggy off of Rebecca, is I've seen more collaboration in the last week since we've been back that has been extremely effective. You talk about digging deep into curriculum and resources and the standards, absolutely. And it's been nice because when I started here 4 years ago, we had one teacher per grade level, and now we have 3. So now these guys aren't working on islands anymore. They're really confident and excited that they have 2 other partners that they can bounce ideas off and divide their plate up. But the collaboration is something that I have noticed this week within our own team, and I'm sure Mike and Rebecca probably can relate to that too. Is you have to be able to collaborate and share ideas more than ever before when it comes to what we're facing.
Yeah, I've always understood class size is important, and this is maybe nature's little way of saying let's get back to smaller class sizes. But when you look at the trends, obviously in Gilbert we have gigantic high schools, we have gigantic junior highs. I mean, we have 1,200 kids in 2 grades at my school. The old model of a school within a school and having teams where teachers get to know kids. I think the key to everything here is the relationships. Rita Pearson, the whole every child needs a champion, and kids don't learn from people they don't like. The relationship part, I think the families are going to start to see why we have to spend so much time on relationships, because they're not going to learn, they're not going to open up, they're going to keep those walls up if we don't have the ability to build those relationships. So whether it's the custodians, whether it's cafeteria, whether it's bus drivers, the teachers, administration, we all need to make sure that when kids come back, yes, learning is a priority, but we have to take care of the social, emotional side of kids right off the bat.
Awesome. Sounds like it's not forced PLCs on teachers anymore. Those used to be a headache. Oh, great! Now they're doing them on their own. We have a question from a panel or from a guest here, and she has two actually. The first one is, how are your schools preparing for addressing the COVID slide, especially in the primary grades 1 and 2?
Well, we have, we understand there's going to be a slide. We know, especially in our population, Brady was talking about the equity issues. We've got extreme poverty that our students live in, and we've had challenges with internet and connectivity and that sort of thing. But the reality is that we can't go back. Like, we are not going back to kindergarten, first grade standards. We are going to teach grade level standards, and we're going to scaffold, and we're going to intervene for those students, and we're going to help close the gap that way. We've been really clear in our stance on that it's important that we continue to look forward. We understand there's going to be holes in their learning. We've purchased some digital programs that are adaptive, so that students have some independent work time if they have internet capacity at their home, which we're finding out most of our families do, which is pretty incredible. And so we're just gonna fill the gap, but we're focusing on the grade level standards. The beautiful thing about our standards right now is that they just build on one another. And so even if you're not solidly ready at first grade level, we know where you're coming from and where you need to go to, and we can just fill those gaps for our students.
Thank you.
Yeah, and coming from an elementary point of view too, I've been really proud of the work that our teachers have done so far, and not only within my school, but just being able to see it from colleagues and friends, whether it's through social media or even direct conversations that I've had. But same kind of thing where we're all in this together. We're all facing the same challenges, and our teachers have really started thinking outside the box, whether it's virtual classrooms with Bitmoji to Google Classrooms, where it's like, I don't know how to do this, but it's just, we don't have a choice. It's dig on in, and they're having fun with it and see them smiling. And then, like Rebecca talked about too, is those standards do piggyback off each other. And so the only direction that we continue to go is forward. And yes, we're going to be doing a lot of our Google chats or our Google meetings through just having small groups. We have found that having small group instruction with 5 or less kids, especially in a format or platform like Zoom or Google Meet, is more effective than having 20 kindergartners in a Zoom. And now you're following, Johnny has a cat, and Susie is showing her teddy bear, and Rebecca is showing me her room. And, it's just all over the place. And so what we have found is that, small group instruction is something that's going to really take precedence, I felt like, with us. And then Mike also mentioned, which I think is the most important, is that with the relationships, and then the social emotional learning is going to be just a big piece, because our kids are going through a lot of trauma, whether they're poverty stricken or they're very affluent. It's just something that we need to focus on. This is a very tough time for adults, and it's a very tough time for kids as well. So being able that their mental health and their status is that they're safe, but also we're being mindful of that emotional learning, and the relationships are priority number one when it comes to remote instruction with us. So we're excited about developing and building on those relationships with our kids.
Awesome, thank you. wanted to jump in the next question here. Was also from Amanda. How has the business community supported your efforts?
Well, I can start. I just received I'll give you an example. We reach out to the community quite a bit, just looking for either donations or how we can give back to our community that we serve. And, we're on the east side of Power. So we're in Mesa, but if you go on the west side of Power, you're in Gilbert. And so we're really excited that, our communities are very supportive of what we do and how we serve our not only our kids, but our families and our communities. I'll give you an example. Tempe Mask Makers just provided 150 masks that are beautiful, and they're made out of fabric, and everyone is different, but they made it for kids and staff. Just reached out through them on social media. Another one is working with Gabriel's Angels, who provides dog therapy to our kids, and trying to think and sit with Pam Gaber, who's the CEO, and her wonderful team of how they can continue to provide those services remotely. And so that's exciting, but there's so many that are willing to give back, and not necessarily through funding, but just to be there, whether it is through a simple donation like a mask, or to provide dog therapy. They are out there, and we are, when I say coming together, it includes community partnerships. And I know that, whether it's through Wilson or Gilbert Public Schools, there are so many community partnerships out there that are willing to help and support our schools, which we're grateful for.
If I could just add in, I'm starting my second year out here at Desert Ridge Junior, so I'm getting to know the community and the outreach, getting parents together for site councils and rebuilding PTRO and things like that. There are so many resources in the community, and I think the more that we are transparent and communicate with our communities, there'll be more outreach. Because sometimes you just don't know what's available until you get together and, again, start building relationships, and people can see what they can do. I know that part of what we were doing earlier, talking about what we're doing on the campuses, our staff got together and built 12 new benches to go in our courtyard for this summer, and we've repainted a lot of the walls and cleaned a lot of the walls and things like that. And I think if that was known by the community, there may have been different groups of people and businesses that might have wanted to contribute to that, whether it was, buying lunches or providing material, or even spending some time in the halls, socially distancing, painting. But again, the more we reach out and let people know what we're doing, I think the more they'll want to be involved also.
Awesome. I don't have any more questions.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in with one here that I'm just curious about, because I don't know, is obviously the home learning environment is just, varies so drastically by a lot of things you guys talked about. Is there any talk, or is it even allowed to do any type of home visit type of scenarios from the schools?
We did quite a bit of home visits in the spring, just because we had a lot of our families that kind of fell off our radar, like their kids aren't logging in, they aren't answering their phones, and it really kind of became kind of well checks for our students. So yeah, I haven't heard that it's not allowable. So we will continue with that. We are encouraging and putting some responsibilities back on the families to reach out, but we know in our environment they can only do so much. And like Brady was saying, they're stressed, but I really believe our community, they have added burden. They really do, with challenges with finances and food and like basic needs of their family. And so we will continue to reach out and do home visits for families that are either just not connecting with us, or parents that are just having challenges with their kids, whether it's our you know, our young ones are super motivated to get online and be with their teacher. And most of our junior high kids are, but Mike can probably understand a lot of our 7th and 8th graders are like, peace out, you know, and so they're not near as motivated. And so we'll visit them, and they'll be hearing from us. So
Yeah, and I think that communication is going to be key. You know, we did a lot of the same, just welfare checks, make sure that they're okay, and just making connections with them, and just checking on a weekly basis to see if they're okay. Because we all were going through a lot, and it was a huge transition. As far as our home visits for this upcoming, I know that we're, especially with food, we're really concerned about. And so being able to drop off meals, working with our vendor, our nutrition one, on being able to provide those meals not only within our school in a drive-through setting, but also being able to provide those meals at bus stops. Maybe they lost their vehicle, maybe they don't have gas money. And so being able to be mindful of not only just welfare checks, but are they eating? That's really important. So we have to look at all those different factors. Yes, we got to provide them the best education possible, but at the same time, there's so many other factors that lead into the well-being and welfare of our families. And so the other thing too I want to add is that, you know, we look at the individuality of all of our kids, whether they learn differently or they act differently or all the above. It's the same thing with our families. Everyone is unique and different, and that's what makes, you know, life special. But at the same time, we have to be mindful that everybody is in a different situation. Might be two parents working, might be single dad with kids, single mom, maybe working with grandpa and grandma, living with aunts and, I mean, you name it, we have probably heard about it. And so we have to be mindful that every home environment is going to be different. And how are we going to meet the needs of not only our individual kids, but our individual families as well?
Looking at the secondary, I think us making home visits are not always the most popular of things. I think parents have trouble visiting their own kids' bedrooms sometimes in the secondary world, but some of the things that I saw from the teachers last, in March and April is going on little parades through neighborhoods, signs in the yard, you know, to see all those graduation signs that we had for the 2020 graduates. I mean, doing the best you can to let people know they're still important, and sometimes that's all it takes is that little smile. And I know as a junior high school, our job is to get them ready for the high school. We have Desert Ridge right across the parking lot from us, Desert Ridge High School, and we kind of have to take the approach of showing the kids kind of from the end. Maybe, here's the test, this is the answers, and then working your way back. How would you have taken notes for this based off the way I'm going to teach you the next couple of days? Because we really have to get to the point where there are going to be holes. There's going to be things we're not going to be able to cover, and we're not going to be able to do 4 or 5 assignments to make sure they understand it. Did you get it at a 40%, a 50%, an 80%? And moving forward, knowing that the standards are going to spiral. And I'm a big baseball guy, and I know I could watch Barry Bonds hit home runs all day long, but that doesn't mean I can do it. So we have to do the same thing with the kids. We do need to show them what we need from them, but we also have to give them opportunities to try it and learn from those mistakes. But the assessments are going to be key. And like you said, the small groups are going to be everything, because that's where kids are going to feel the safest in those environments.
Thank you, Mike. Awesome. Well, I don't see any more questions. We'll wrap up here just a sec. I just wanted to say something. The common theme I heard from everybody was the word comes to mind is unity, and there's trying to bridge that divide between parents and the school. And now seems like, okay, Mother Earth forced us to all unify. So hopefully it'll bring back the parent-teacher relationship.